For centuries, science walked in the shadow of God. For centuries, science walked in the shadow of God. Theories had to ask permission. Astronomers had to kneel. And truths had to wait. But in the 20th century, in Italy, the cradle of Catholicism, and the Vatican, a woman emerged who refused to ask forgiveness for thinking. Margherita Hack, astrophysicist, declared atheist, militant of reason, for many a modern heretic. For others, the intellectual successor of Galileo Galilei. This is the story of the woman who dared to say, "Science does not need God to explain the universe." Margherita Hack was born in 1922 in Florence City, shaped by art, science, and the church. 20th century Italy was not just a country. It was a spiritual territory where the Vatican influenced education, politics, morality, and even science. Growing up in that environment meant learning early on that questioning God was more dangerous than being wrong. But Margherita was raised differently. In a secular family where reason was not a crime and critical thinking was encouraged, her parents, who had abandoned Catholicism for theosophy, instilled in her a deep respect for all living things and an open-minded approach to the great questions of life, free from dogma. It was in this fertile ground of intellectual freedom that the seed of dissent was born. Her childhood was marked by a love for athletics, which taught her discipline and resilience, traits that would later define her academic and public life. Contrary to what religious tradition preached, Margherita did not see the universe as a divine creation but as an enigma to be understood. She chose physics and astronomy. Finally, astrophysics, the study of stars, matter, and the origin of the cosmos. Her journey into science was a quest for answers, driven by an insatiable curiosity that could not be satisfied by scripture. While many scientists throughout history sought to reconcile their discoveries with faith, Hack did the opposite. The more she learned about the universe, its vastness, its physical laws, the less room there was for a divine architect. For her, a mystery was not proof of the divine. Mystery was merely temporary ignorance, a puzzle waiting for the next breakthrough, the next observation, the next equation. The elegance of the cosmos, she believed, was in its natural processes, not in a supernatural plan. Margherita Hack was not just an atheist who kept her beliefs private. She was a militant atheist, in a country where even prominent scientists and intellectuals often avoided publicly criticizing the church. She spoke without hesitation. She argued that religion, particularly organized religion, actively interfered with scientific education by promoting creationism over evolution. She contended it delayed crucial public policies on health and social issues by imposing ancient moral codes. And she insisted that it distorted public debates on ethics, from abortion and euthanasia to sexuality and scientific research, by replacing evidence-based reasoning with dogma. For Hack, faith was not a neutral, personal choice when it entered the public square. It was political power disguised as spirituality, an institution seeking to maintain control over minds and societies. The history of Italy is deeply marked by the dramatic conflicts between science and dogma. The story of Galileo Galilei, condemned by the Inquisition for stating that the Earth was not the center of the universe, is a scar on the conscience of Western thought. Centuries later, Margherita Hack warned that the methods of suppression had changed, but the desire for control remained. Now, she argued, scientists were no longer burned at the stake. Instead, debates were silenced through political pressure. Funding for research that challenged religious sensibilities was cut, and ideas, along with the scientists who proposed them, were demonized in the media. Hack called this by its name, ideological censorship. It was a more subtle, modern form of inquisition, designed not with fire but with financial and social exclusion to keep science in its place. Like Galileo before her, Margherita Hack stated something simple and therefore dangerous. Nature does not bow to the Bible. The laws of physics are not subject to theological interpretation. She argued that science does not vote, does not pray, and does not ask permission from any authority other than evidence and reproducible results. While the Church in the 20th and 21st centuries attempted to reconcile with science through conciliatory discourse, even formally apologizing for the Galileo affair, Hack exposed what she saw as historical hypocrisy. For her, An apology offered centuries later did not erase centuries of intellectual repression, persecution, and the active obstruction of human knowledge. She believed that the core conflict remained, one system based on unwavering faith, the other on perpetual questioning. Hack's battle extended beyond the cosmos and into the very fabric of society. She fiercely fought against the religious co-opting of scientific morality. She was a vocal champion for stem cell research, arguing it held immense potential for treating diseases and that its progress should not be stalled by theological objections. About the status of embryos, she defended reproductive rights, believing women should have control over their own bodies, a decision to be guided by personal conscience and medical advice, not ecclesiastical decree. She advocated for a fully secular education system and the total separation of state and church, arguing that a modern democracy cannot serve two masters. She believed that decisions impacting all of society must be based on verifiable evidence and rational ethics, not on ancient scriptures. For many religious people, this was a direct attack on their values. For her, it was the liberation of human potential from the chains of dogma. Such a public and unyielding stance came at a cost. Margherita Hack was attacked, mocked, and labeled in the Italian press and public forums. She was called a heretic, a throwback to an old war. She was labeled arrogant for daring to question deeply held beliefs. She was accused of being a destroyer of values, of promoting a cold, meaningless, godless universe. But she never backed down. Her personal motto was simple and powerful: I cannot lie to comfort illusions. She was convinced that facing reality, however complex or unsettling, was a more profound ethical act than clinging to comforting fables. She believed that scientific truth, with all its uncertainties and revisions, is more ethical and ultimately more hopeful than any faith imposed by authority. Her courage was not born of arrogance, but of a deep intellectual integrity. Margherita Hack died in 2013 at the age of 91, leaving behind a monumental legacy in astrophysics and public discourse. But her ideas remain more alive and relevant than ever. In a world where obscurantism is making a comeback, where pseudoscientific theories spread like wildfire on social media, where dogmas of all kinds once again attempt to impose themselves on science and public policy, her voice echoes as a powerful warning. Science only advances when it stops asking permission from the gods. Her life is a testament to the idea that the pursuit of knowledge requires not just intellect, but unwavering courage. If you believe science should be free from ideological control, if you believe critical thinking is essential for a healthy society, if you believe questioning is not a crime, but a duty, like this video, share it with those who value reason, and subscribe to the channel for more documentaries that challenge dogmas and reveal history without filters. Because truth does not need faith, it needs courage.